The Depression was caused by government. It was a result of bad government. It was a result of government actions not working the way they were intended to. The Federal Reserve System was established in 1914 for the purpose of preventing things like the Great Depression. And yet, its existence was responsible, in my opinion, for the depth of the Depression. So that you cannot look at the after effect without looking at what came before. Given that you made the terrible mistakes that led to the Great Depression, I have never criticized the remedial actions that were taken immediately thereafter to help the people who were so badly hurt. That was a desirable thing, and it was a reaction to it. The bad things about the New Deal were not those. The bad things about the New Deal was not Works Progress Administration, which offered temporary jobs, the Civilian Conservation Corps. That was not the bad things. Those were good things. The bad things about the New Deal were the more permanent changes it introduced in the institutions of the country. One of them has recently come home to roost in the Federal Savings and Loan Insurance Corporation. That's a strict New Deal consequence. That was established, well, why was it established? If a private organization makes a mistake, does things badly, it will lose money and it will have to go out of business. If a public organization does things badly and governmental organization does things badly and makes bad mistakes, it will be expanded. It will be expanded because they'll say, well, it's all because we just didn't have enough resources to it, or else it will be left to stand, and another organization will be set up to do what it was supposed to do. That is this case. The Federal Reserve System was established to prevent the bank runs and bank failures that happened during the Great Depression. But they made it worse, much worse, by not doing what they were setting up to do. They were supposed to provide liquidity, and instead they reduced liquidity. The quantity of money in the United States fell by a third between 1929 and 1933. The Federal Reserve System at all times during that period had the power to prevent that decline. And it was established for the purpose of preventing that from happening. It didn't do it. And so what happened? The Federal Reserve System wasn't abolished, unfortunately, but the Federal Deposit Insurance was created to do what the Federal Reserve System had been supposed to do, to prevent bank runs. I have never argued that government initiatives may not be just as good as private initiatives. The problem with government is not in the things it tries, but in the absence of any mechanism for recognizing error. What you need, what the private system abounds in, is survival of the fittest. What the governmental system abounds in is expansion of the mistakes. And there's no mechanism for eliminating governmental agencies which either have no longer are needed or have behaved perversely. If you try to think back and ask yourself, how many government agencies can you think of that have ever been abolished? I thought you could count those on the fingers of one hand. One of the government agencies that was abolished was there once existed a system of postal savings where the post offices held savings. How come it became abolished? Because when it was passed, the law was passed, it was passed that it could not pay, that it was limited to paying interest of a maximum of 2%. Now, during the Great Depression, that was wonderful because it was safe. And postal savings deposits expanded and became very large. During the later 30s, and particularly after the war, when interest rates started going up way above 2%, everybody took their money out of the postal savings. There was no more money in there, and it was allowed to die. Now, that's one of the very few examples of a government agency that has been eliminated. Can you name any others? Now, we don't have a free market, don't kid yourself. And the biggest